Renita Vermeulen is family here at Inside Dirt and ID Media Group. She was a former brand manager for us, and that was just one step on her journey to the top of motorsports media. She captivated the pits with her presence and personality for Pro Motocross, ProMX and Australian Supercross before she was headhunted by Fox Sports Australia to be a presenter, to be a content creator for Moto GP, Formula One, and since stepping into that more mainstream and larger world of motorsports media, she has interviewed the likes of Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, Marc Marquez, Jack Miller, and just to name a few. She is a regular feature on Fox Sports programming across their international broadcasts. She hosts live events, and we're going to talk about all that and more in the podcast. So let's welcome Renita to the show. All right, Ren Doggy, Renita Vermeulen.
Hello.
Welcome back. Welcome back to reality, to the peasantry of non-corporate agency world.
No, don't start the pod like this.
I have got to give you some shit.
No.
No, Ren, welcome back. Been a minute. But we've done some podcasts over the years when you were working with us, but now we have the studio video component. I was like, it would be good to get you back in because you're doing a lot of cool stuff nowadays. So I was like, especially being a woman in motorsport, there's like a lot to cover there. But before we get into that, like, what's up? Ren's World, what's happening? Rode the scooter here, Sunny Coast native like me now. Like,
oh, hey, I'm not OG. I was from here. You're the import. But yes.
We're all imports. We've got a New Zealand import. We've got me. I don't even know what I am.
Oh, so I have to take you guys back really quick because when Joe just said then about being on the pod is the first time I was on the Inside Dirt pod, we recorded that in my living room on my sofa.
We did.
I think I was trying to teach you about Moto GP. We were watching testing or something. And then you're like, hey, let's talk about motorbikes and motocross because I know that.
No, weren't we doing, it was when you were working with us.
Yeah.
It was one of the wrap-up pods for Supercross, wasn't it? Like 2023 or something.
Yeah. No, but it was definitely in the living room. I think I'd listened to you and Darnell chat before that. And then I was like, oh, I know how this goes. So
yeah, you jumped on and off. I know you did some of the stuff when you were traveling with us for ProMX as well.
Yeah.
For clarity for everyone listening, like, what are you talking about? So Renita was our brand manager at ID Media Group for what, about 12 months?
Yeah, pretty much. You found me on TikTok of all places.
I did find you on TikTok. Yeah, I hit you up. So what is your TikTok channel?
Just my name, just Renita
Vermeulen.
Everything.
And that was about 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago. And you were doing your Moto GP TikTok content.
Yeah.
Which I thought was super cool.
Thank you.
And that's why I reached out. And I was like, hey, have you ever done any brand work before?
I was like, nah, I know CapCut.
You had it at that point, which is crazy now.
Yeah.
Thinking back 2.5 years ago and you were like, do you remember when you came to the first event with us and you were like super nervous?
Oh, Toowoomba ProMX.
Yeah, Toowoomba 23.
Because I'd been there when I worked for Uribe and Honda, but then being on the other side of it was wild.
So yeah, that's the background, everyone. Ren worked with us for like 12 months. Then she got this incredible offer to go to Fox Sports and do MotoGP stuff, which was the dream, and it's just skyrocketed from there.
Yeah.
I'm not bitter at all that she left, and I couldn't match that. But nah. So I guess I don't want to spend too long on the backstory because, like I said to you off air, we do that a lot, and then it doesn't make room for all the cool stuff that people are doing now. And you just in the last 12 months have done so much epic stuff between Fox Sports, MotoGP, F1, Monaco Ren. Like, that's the inside joke. So I'm like, ID Media Group's based in Maroochydore, not Monaco. But so I guess take it back a little bit, like the connection between family name, your brother being who he was in Superbikes and MotoGP and everything, and then the short version of how you went from different job roles in the industry to the best job of your career working for us, and then unfortunately going to Fox Sports.
And then downgrading
to, Moto GP and Formula One,
So yeah, for those who don't know, my brother's Chris Vermeulen, old racer, world champion, Moto GP race winner. So that's my background. So growing up, always attending ASBK events and traveling with that. Joe, you look like you're about to say something.
Cool. I was just all good. Checking the podcast was recording.
Yeah. Okay. Before I get into the story. So yeah.
My bad.
traveled with racing my whole life. Like, if I could describe a smell of my child, it's two-stroke, as most moto kids are around, right? So that was me, traveled with that. Then once my brother's career finished, I was a teenager, but when I was not involved with racing, performing arts was my background. So I was acting, I was singing, I was doing all of that. Then when I became like an actual adult and had to figure out how to make money, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And eventually it led to me getting a job working for Yuriv Konski as the team coordinator. But that was I say that in parentheses because that job role had a lot of things going with it there, because you're managing the athletes and we were doing marketing, and I had 17 Red Riders on the privateer program. So I kind of spread out across everything, and working for Yuriv in that year taught me how to hustle and think outside the box. And if a door closes, you just at the wrong door, try something else. So at that time, this is post-COVID, TikTok's on the boom. I'm seeing all these F1 content creators come out. I'm thinking, why can't we do that with MotoGP? I know I don't want to be stuck behind a computer all day and working on numbers and stuff, but I want to use all my previous theatre and acting and singing and on-screen talent. How can I blend the two? About MotoGP.
I never knew about the performing arts thing.
Didn't you?
Ah, you didn't tell me about that.
That's my background. That's why I'm so theatrical with everything that I do.
Oh, I think you may have said something now you did that.
Yeah, the fingers
the busy fingers. Right. Okay.
Yeah, so from that, came back to Queensland because I moved to Melbourne to work for Yuriv, and then that's when you reached out to me. And I was still doing my own content, and then jumped on board with you, and you were like, hey, I want to expand. How can we promote different things? And I thought, all right, like why don't we come on board? Why don't we try and create stuff? So we started to venture out into different things, and then through what I was doing with you, my own stuff kept growing. And from there, at the same time, I got headhunted from Fox Sports as they were, we see what you're doing with MotoGP. We love that you do with socials. That can translate to our audience. And in return, let's train you up in broadcast, because my ultimate role is to work in MotoGP in the paddock full time as a presenter there and help just tell the story of MotoGP. So in a nutshell, that's how I got from being traveled around it and taken to motorbike tracks as a tiny tot to now choosing to go to motorbike tracks as a bit of a bigger tot.
So yeah, that's extremely long story short.
Literally.
But yeah, that's kind of like what I wanted to get into. And I think the other backstory that I find fascinating about you and I's relationship is that your fiance is obviously Richie.
Yeah. And you guys used to race together.
And Richie
UK.
and I grew up in the UK racing together.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen Richie for 15 plus years. And that year you worked for Yuriv. I turn around at Coolum at the last round of ProMX in 23, and I bump into Richie. Yeah. And I'm like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Like, what, you know? And yeah, then it turns out he told me the backstory of you and him being together. You're engaged, and then you'd spend time in the UK with him when he was racing over there doing superbikes. And I'm like, and then fast track another 6 months and I moved to the sunny coast.
Yeah.
And it's just this bizarre, like, as big as the world is, like, I raced Richie growing up in the UK. Like, when you and I were working together, Richie and I were going through old photos and we're like, that's the British 125 championship. And we're both in the first corner, like banging bars. And that's 2000, whatever it was, right? Like 4, 5, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I never spent any time with Richie in the UK. We raced each other. I never spoke to him. To be honest, he was a little bit better than me. I would beat him occasionally, but he was
Hear that, Richie? Hear that?
No, he was good, man. He was good. Like, I was good, but he would beat me more than I'd beat him. I don't mind saying that now. It's past due date. But I wouldn't say we come from different areas of the country, you know. But the time I spent with Richie was in California.
Yeah.
Right? It's like two people from a small little the UK. We raced, never really interacted with each other. And then when I hung out with him was in California, right? Of all places, he was living over there riding and racing, right?
Yeah.
And I did one preseason in California when my parents finally let me finish school, and I was attempting to get my pro career on track. But he was with the MX Heaven guys.
Yeah.
And they had their Supercross, what do they call that program? It was like a scholarship program.
Yeah, like they did college
and
then race at the same
I was
time.
just over there kind of doing it on my own. And then the MX Heaven guy offered me that scholarship program. And I remember talking to Richie about it, and I was hanging out with those guys, and I never ended up doing it. One of my biggest regrets, actually.
Really?
Yeah. But anyway, because it was like I would have raced Supercross.
Yeah.
Like it was a Supercross ride.
Yeah.
And like I was like, nah, maybe next year. And then within 12 months, like my whole life had changed. My career was done, whatever. But so Richie and I hung out then. That was in 2007, 2006. Yeah, 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
And then, then all of a sudden, 15 plus years later, we're on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And back together again. Like it's the most bizarre. It's a small world, especially with the digital age. But at the same time, motorsport is bizarre how it pulls you around the world, isn't it?
I was going to say that. I think it's a motorsport thing is if you're in that vibe, you're in that family, you know people for forever. Everyone's got your back. It's a really tight-knit community no matter where you are in the world. Yeah,
and I think it transcends. It's not just a dirt bike thing. It's not just it's just motorsport, right? Because you go to V8s. I mean, we're talking to this with what you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's different culturally, but it's still the same.
It's still the same. Yeah. And it translates. Like I just came from the supercars launch of the new Toyota Supra. That's a new model car coming in next year, and talking to Brock Feeney, and he's talking about homologation and everything, and everything that he's talking about with those cars translated to me to motorbikes, translates to me with what I did at motocross, and you can have a conversation. He races cars. I know nothing about them. I know the bike world, but it all translates.
It does.
And you can have a convo.
Yeah, motorsport's motorsport. I think culturally, like it's event based, it's travel driven, right?
Yeah.
It's cool, but no, that fascinated me about our connection was with Richie. It was just such a head trip for me that after all those years, you're back around each other again.
Yeah.
But so yeah, short story long. Obviously, Chris, champion, and you bounced around for years. And I think perhaps understated in that short story long is that probably took you a long time to find your feet as in an identity for yourself, right? Like I know you and I have had that conversation where it was all about Chris, but like he was the guy growing up.
Yeah.
So you were kind of at the races and trying to find your identity, which I think is really cool how, I mean, in your 30s, now that's actually materialized for you. You know what I mean?
It's weird being on TikTok in my 30s. Like I definitely feel old being on there. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, it kind of, if there's anything I can take away from that is to take the risks. Just because you are in your 30s doesn't mean you shouldn't be posting on socials or trying a new career or changing direction. And I feel like there's so much force on you need to be like you finish school and then you have to know what you're doing, or you go to university and then that's the path, and then your 20s and then like this career or this life plan. I've done none of that.
No, you haven't. No,
I've gone the complete opposite way.
But that's what's so cool about, and that's honestly like why now is that mic good for her, Adam? Like, cause she needs to be closer, or is it good? I remember when I hit you up, right? And one of the conversations was, I want to get into presenting. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, come with us. Like, not that I'm awesome at anything, but I did TV for a long time. Podcasting, like I have a lot of experience with it, right? So it's like, let's get you in front of the camera more. Let's get you at the events more. Let's get you seen, all those things. And the hesitancy, I remember where you were like, still like, yeah, I want to do it, but you didn't feel ready for it, or there was still that nervousness around it, to now where I see you on hosting Moto GP on Fox Sports and pit reporter and like legit bigger than I ever did with TV, right? But that happened in a span of 2.5 years. And it's like, it's really cool that the story behind, people look at it now and it's like, oh, you've always been doing that, but you haven't.
No.
It's just materialized now this long into what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's crazy when something feels right, everything just flows. Sometimes I say the universe was just telling me to do this, and I had to figure out how to do it my way and use my voice. And I never walk into a room and go, oh, I'm Chris's sister, because he raced like 100 years ago, so no one knows who he is now. But at the same time, I never use that. I'm my own person, and I've created my own way, and I've got my results for myself, not from that. And it's comes back to like what I was saying, where if you don't try, you never know. And I don't want to live with regrets. I don't want to get to 60 and go, oh, I wish I made my MotoGP dreams came true. I wish I tried. Now I'm actually trying and I'm getting a step closer every time.
Yeah.
To hopefully making them come true.
No, you absolutely have. And I remember that conversation where it was like, you were very transparent with me. You're like, yeah, I'll come work with you guys, but my end goal is MotoGP. And I was like, yeah, of course, I would never want you to not pursue that. And if it material, and then literally 12 months later, you call me and you're like, hey, and I'm like, wow, that quick. Like,
yeah,
like no shit.
I was so nervous to call you, and you were like at Australia Zoo or something. And I was like, Joe, I have to tell you this right now.
Yeah, it was like the school holidays. I was with the kids, but I was stoked for you, and it happened so quickly. But that's when momentum starts happening, right? So I guess let's break that down now. So obviously you sell out, you get the contract. you go to Fox Sports, right? You know, but what is your actual role? Because if you look on your socials, it's like you're at MotoGP overseas, you're at F1, you're doing broadcast, and then behind the scenes, there's a lot more. So like, what is your actual role at Fox Sports?
Yes. So technically I'm a digital MotoGP producer. And what that means is whatever you see on Fox Motorsport on socials, that translates over to KO and Fox Sports Australia. If it's about motorsport, generally that's me.
Yep.
If it's creating assets, working with editorial team. But I expand because I never like to fit into a box. I like to go above and beyond. So through that, I do long form video as well for them. And whether that's creating stories or hosting interviews or working with writers, anything to do with the long form, that's also me. Host a podcast as well called Pit Talk through Fox, and that's heavily MotoGP based. And I work alongside our editor, and same thing, we're talking to writers. We're building narratives there. Then I also do interviews for broadcasts. So earlier this year when I was at Thailand for the season opener, I sat down with Pedro Acosta. I spoke with Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia, and I'm creating content that goes on the broadcast here in Australia as well. And this all correlates back to MotoGP, who are owned by THOR, and it's all working with them. So essentially, yes, my role is social media, but I keep expanding further and further, doing on the grid live calls, translating to Twitter and live video and everything. So it's not a box. Nothing fits into a box.
Essentially, yeah. And you're a MotoGP asset to Fox Sports. But how does the F1 come into that and the V8s and all that?
I think because, like you said, motorsport is motorsport. And once bikes are obviously very different to F1, totally different to supercars. They have different clientele base, different audiences. But I figured out, and I'm working with Fox, and we're telling the stories of MotoGP that's really resonating with people. Now I'm translating that across to F1, which doesn't need any help, but we want to promote Oscar Piastri. We want him to be a household name. And then same with the supercars. It's, okay, how do we tell the stories? How can we get the crossover audiences of the MotoGP fans and the F1 fans to now come to supercars? And so the average person who, for example, might even watch ProMX, how do we get them to watch MotoGP? Because obviously motocross is so different to road racing. But once you get to kind of understand the intricacies, that's a really cool sport. Same thing, how do we get...
but it's framed through the lens of, because I like to deep dive into the business behind it, right? So it's like everything you're doing is that the output is framed through the lens of engaging audiences on the Fox Sports network to watch the events, right?
Correct, yeah.
So when you're at V8s or F1, it's still all pulling content and storytelling through the Fox Sports socials, web, digital output.
Yeah, in a different way, in a different narrative than what the sports are doing themselves.
Yeah, so it's almost like it's independent. You're not going to create content for V8 supercars. This is for Fox Sports via different racing championships. Yeah,
that's literally it in a nutshell. And it's really cool because obviously MotoGP is my background and what I know. But getting to learn about F1 has been insane. Obviously, that whole Drive to Survive boom. I watched the show. I could tell you beforehand, I was like, Michael Schumacher, Ayrton Senna. Senna. And same with like when it comes to supercars, I'm like, oh, Lounsey, I know he's from Southeast Queensland, blah, blah, blah. But now that I'm in there, getting to know the sport and the narratives and the drivers and understanding it, it's really, really cool. And I'm going, how can I show people what I'm learning and what I'm seeing out into the broader audience so that they become fans of it? That's essentially what it is.
Yeah, that's a good translation. I think there's such a, like, we're obviously super passionate about motorsports and events in general. And like then you and I and collectively everybody in the room, everyone involved with what we do, like we love content, right? Like I love storytelling, and that's why we do what we do for the teams and the brands, right? It's getting that messaging out there in a way that captivates an audience to want to do something, whether it's buy a product, whether it's come to an event. Like at more and more as time's gone on, I'm like, that's actually what I like to do, you know? Yeah, it's that passion for storytelling, and it's just so cool. Like Supercross is coming up, you know, and that's just such a sick environment to do all the stuff that we do. And obviously you were a part of that back in the day with us, but it still translates. Like when you were at ProMX the other year for Fox with Jack Miller.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just such an epic story to have those guys at those events. But I guess the nitty gritty, right? Like, again, break it down more. Like you just went to Europe for what, 3 months?
Yeah, 2 months.
2 months.
I mean, I'd have to say 3, but
you're like, it's not long enough. It's not long enough.
No, trust me, it was a long time to be there living out of a suitcase.
You love Europe though.
I do, but I did.
You love Disneyland and shit.
I did 6 events in 6 weeks. I was on the road nonstop.
So just event to event to event.
Yeah, MotoGP to F1 to MotoGP, MotoGP, F1.
Yeah, right.
Nonstop.
It's a hard life.
It is, and it looks so glamorous on the TV, and they get to travel, and
it really isn't though.
Cool. It
is not,
and it's hard, and you're on different time zones. And lucky for me, all the races were in Europe. But imagine going from the F1 guys; they go from Europe to America to Asia, then back. It's like, how do you deal with that?
I think that's the one part of the game that people don't understand. Like outside looking in, right? Like I think there's such a disconnect, and I think it's natural that fans of motorsport, they have no idea what the industry and the business side is.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, it's a hustle.
Like there's such and there should be a disconnect, right? Because they're not in the industry. And I guess for the average punter, the average viewer, like whether they are a 9-to-5 person, whether they run their own business, but like I have no business knowing how commercial building works or property management. Like that's not me. So I guess why would they know about our side of the industry?
Yeah.
But like the business side, yeah, it definitely isn't all it's cracked up to be, right? Like it's awesome and we enjoy it and we love it. But like you said, you're flying, yeah, internationally, I'm going to Europe, but you're living out of a suitcase, jet lag.
Yeah.
Can't get the food you like, can't get the coffee you like you're under pressure to perform and you stay up days on end, right? Like it's a hustle, it's a grind.
It is. And I even think like the simplest thing at the moment that translates to what we see in MotoGP is, this is probably going to go over your head, Joe, but Marc Marquez is dominating on the Ducati. And
I'm stupid.
No, I'm just going, I know you don't like MotoGP.
No, I like MotoGP. I do. I just don't have the time. If I watched every sport I was into,
I know.
we'd never get nothing done, right?
I know. So yeah.
I watch your content on Fox Sports.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, on socials.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah, Marc Marquez dominating on the exact same bike, Pecco Bagnaia struggling so much. And we post about it on Fox, and the comments we get is, well, why doesn't Pecco just use the same settings that Mark's using? It's not how it works. And I know in your mind you go, oh, it's just easy. All he has to do is this one little thing and it'll be good. And that translates to everything. It's like what you see on the outside is not what it's like on the inside. But in saying that, I'm so grateful that my drama is, I'm tired or I'm jet lagged or I'm whatnot.
It's perspective of what because every job's hard. Every career is hard.
Yeah.
Everything has its drawbacks, right?
Yeah.
I think our drawbacks, one of my favorite sayings is the quality, your quality of your life is related to the quality of your problems.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good perspective. And like, I do it sometimes where I'm like, oh, another event. Oh,
and then you have to take that step back.
But you have to be like, oh, hey, bro, like
this is
10-year-old you would be so stoked on what you do for a career.
Exactly.
Right? Same as you as a youngster, right?
Yeah.
Like, could you have ever imagined that you were doing what you're doing now?
When I was younger, I dreamt of it, pushed that dream to the back of my head, felt like I had to live the normal life, like I said earlier. And then now I'm going, oh my God, like you pointed out, look at what I've achieved in 2 years. and I can see my end goal. It is so close. It's almost in reach. Now it's
So
just
what is the end goal? Being a full-time Moto GP broadcast team member?
Yeah, I just love to work in the paddock, attend all the races. I love the vibe. You drive into the racetrack for the first time, the noise of the bikes, the engines, that feeling. You see the riders, you see the passion, the excitement, or just the disappointment. I love all that. So if I can bundle that up and make that my job, 22 race weekends a year, and be at the events, I'm living my absolute dream.
You've already bridged that gap because you were live announcing at what GP was it?
Oh, in Qatar, yeah.
Qatar, yeah. I remember we talked about this earlier in the year.
Yeah.
And you did the live announcing to the Qatar venue, right?
Yeah, so that's another little side hustle that I do is I do work for some circuits. I work for the Australian circuit, and I did Qatar where I'm commentating because I asked Joe, how do I commentate? Clearly I don't mind a chin wag, but I was like, this is a whole nother kettle of fish that I don't know.
Do you remember what I said?
I don't know if I can repeat it on here. Darnell and Posty tend to bring it up a lot.
Nah, well, I'm like, just be you.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I said. I was like, you know what you're talking about. The more you think about it, the worse you'll be. Just go be you.
Yeah, and that's essentially what I did. And the same part of what I do when I do these live hostings as well is there's a lot of interactions with, I'm drawing it out with my hands, but the fan stage where the riders come up and you're having to tell their stories and interact with the fans. In MotoGP, they have this really cool thing called the Hero Walk, and in F1 in Melbourne, it's called the Melbourne Walk.
Right.
And so I do both of those as well. So, this year I did the Melbourne Walk for F1. Lewis Hamilton comes up with 8 bodyguards. And I'm like trying to squeeze in. Hi, Lewis. Hi. Can I just talk to you really quickly inside your bodyguards? I feel really safe right now. Charles Leclerc, like these big, big names. And then the same thing with MotoGP. It's Marquez, and we're getting him to do funny dance moves and stuff. It's like, how do I relate that? And then also, how do I go in and ask them, okay, so what's the game plan for this weekend? How's the tire situation going? Are we having to manage tires because it's a new track surface? Like, it's a real blend between entertainment and education. And how do I merge that all together?
Wow. You're pretty smart. Like, I've never had it broken down that way. Like, but that's the truth, right? Like, live announcing or TV is a blend of entertainment and education. That's really, you should do that for a job. That's really cool.
Oh, thank you.
But no, it's true, right? Like, it literally is. And I think that's a skill set where I think when, you were saying to me like, hey, watch, I'm like, there's no point planning it. Like, and I hate it, right? When whether it's TV or whether it's, doing stadium hosting for Supercross, right? Like, whatever it is, you go to these production meetings. I'm not talking about anyebody I've ever worked with, but I'm literally kind of like, guys, can you just give me the sponsor list and the schedule?
Yeah.
Because everything else, as soon, and you'll know this, maybe it's a little different with like the quality of broadcast with Fox Sports and stuff, but probably not. I find as soon as they yell go and live, 10 things go wrong. Everything changes, and you're just thinking on your feet anyway. So I'm like,
think on your feet.
I would rather not have a preset script in my head that I have to stick to, because I guarantee you something's going to happen in the first 3 minutes of this broadcast, or the first 3 minutes of, like, I can't remember what Supercross it was a couple of years ago. Like, the crowd didn't know, right? But whether it was, I think it was opening ceremonies at one of the events, and you have comms in your ear, right? And you got the producer telling you where to go in the stadium, who's coming out, whatever. Same as TV, right? Yeah. Hey, 30 seconds till commercial. Hey, 5, 4. And people don't even know that, right? Like, you're trying to have a conversation with one of these big name guys, and then they go and ask him this, 3, 2, sign out. You're back in 20, commercial, whatever, right? But we were doing opening ceremonies, and the entire comms and our entire back end system just goes out in the middle of opening ceremonies. So like, we've got acknowledgement of country, we've got riders coming out of the stands here, there, and everywhere, and it all goes out, right? So then we just had to freestyle the whole thing. and people didn't know. No. But because you just have to do it, right? Yeah. But if you're too rigid with, it's got to be perfect, it's got to be this way, and that's why I laugh sometimes at production meetings. I'm like, just give us the gist of it, and yeah, it needs to be perfect, but it's too many variables for it to be a
Yeah.
you know, a rigid format, you know?
Oh, you completely hit the nail on the head. And I can think of so many times it's the same thing, like in Qatar earlier this year and on the fan forum stage, and the riders were coming in earlier and we only had like 10-minute windows with each one. And obviously they have so many other press commitments and whatnot they're doing. So then some of the riders are running late and you're trying to get them through and you're trying to have the conversation and then you're going, oh, I can see another one's there. Okay, let's try and bring them all together. And you're having to think on your feet and do whatever you can. But people just don't know. And the cool thing is when they don't know, you're like, I've done my job.
You're doing your
enough.
job.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the best way to put it, is that if people don't know what's going on behind the scenes, they're not supposed to. Your job is to shield the audience and entertain them whilst it's chaos in your ear, or like you said, you're trying to get 10 riders through the VIP and they, you know, security. And
I think the hardest thing is you have these situations, and it's not something I like to talk about a lot, but I feel like it's a space where we can, is the stuff will go up on socials or whatnot and you get the negative comments. And it's like, it's all well and good. You're so valid to your opinion and you're welcome to have that. But if you knew what was happening, if you really knew like the drama, the pressure, you've just come from here, or this rider's late, or whatever's going on, or comms aren't working. The same thing like in Melbourne, Hero Walk, for example, Kimi Antonelli was coming through with his press officer. And this is Melbourne Walk streamed live across the whole circuit. Jumped in, Kimi, how are you? Welcome to Melbourne. And the press officer gone, no. Can't speak to him. You have to run all your questions to me. And this is live on the circuit. And so we had to just wing it. I had to jump out and do something else. It's crazy. And you get the, I wish you spoke to Kimi. And I'm like, I wish I got to speak to him too. Yeah. I tried, but this is the situation.
I think one of the best examples of this in motorsports broadcasting, is it Martin Blundell that does the F1 pit, Martin something?
Oh yeah.
On the start grid, yeah, and he just does the walk. Yeah. And like he like if he gets celebrities or people, he'll just straight up call them.
The walk is crazy.
Yeah.
I did one in Thailand. Sorry, I'm telling all these stories.
No, it's cool. This is what I want, right? Yeah.
I did one in Thailand earlier this year, and we just did the first 2 rows because Jack Miller was on the second row. So Marc Marquez, I think it was Alex Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia, Jack Miller, and I can't remember the other 2. So we've gone through, done that. There is people everywhere on a Moto GP, and F1's even crazier. There's just people everywhere. So you're trying to get in, the camera's trying to get up to see the riders and the bikes, and then come back to you, and you're on the mic and you're walking. And I've walked back to close it out, and there's a chick behind me and I didn't see, and she's tripped over my feet, and this is all happening live.
Whilst it's live.
Yeah. But it was fun and it was cool. I felt sorry for tripping her over. But yeah, you just have to deal with that, the people, and it could start raining, and there it was like 30 plus degrees. It was sweating and gross.
Yeah. Middle East climate, right?
It was Asia.
Sorry,
I was in Thailand, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember that conversation now, and you were kind of like, this doesn't give me much comfort, Joe. And I was like, well, it's the best advice I can give you because, and I guess now that is apparent, right? All right, guys, thanks for listening. You know what time it is. We can't do the Inside Dirt podcast without the sponsors. And this one goes out to the guys at ProMX Australia via the distributor at Gas Imports. Make sure you head to the Gas Imports website, check out the THOR brand page, and view the all-new MX26 collection, which is now live. It is championship proven across the sport mode and launch mode lines. You've seen it on Danger Boy Deegan. You've seen it on Aaron Plessinger. It is industry-leading racewear and performance. Check it out at Gas Imports now. It's interesting to me, like, I'm just thinking of topics as this conversation evolves. Like, obviously, you've been in ProMX and Supercross, motocross, and you've been in F1 and V8s and different things. And I'm always like, what works in those sports that doesn't translate to because obviously this is a motocross, Supercross audience that we're listening to this right now. So I'm like, all right, ProMX example, Supercross, whatever. Got the VIP track walks, got all this stuff. I know ProMX tries to do the media grid like those other mainstream motocross sports. Like, it doesn't translate. It doesn't work. It's dead air time. There's no vibe, right? Why is that? Well, your opinion, at least. I'm not asking you to solve it, but I'm just curious.
Thanks for giving me a really difficult equation to work out right now. I think the thing with ProMX is the audience base it's the homegrown, it's the farmers, it's the guys who work really. It's the true blue Aussies, and that's the audience base. V8s is fairly similar with those.
Well, V8s is corporate though, right? Like, as in.
Hope you're not listening to this supercars.
No, but V8s, I think Supercross audience, V8 audience, very similar.
Very similar.
Like, there's people buying corporate boxes, there's brands, dealerships, mainstream businesses, they'll do the VIP package. They'll spend thousands of dollars to be in that stadium environment. And even though V8s isn't stadium, like you go to Adelaide, they just build an infrastructure in the city that's like kilometers long, right? I love it. Like, everyone bitches and complains about Supercross. Not everyone, I shouldn't say that. But there is a Puritan audience that's like, why are we with V8s? It's like, when there's 250,000 people go through that complex and get exposed to Supercross, that's why we're with the V8s.
Well, back in the day when my brother was racing, it wasn't called Australian Superbikes back then, or maybe it was in the late 90s. They used to do the whole season, I believe, alongside. It was called the V8 Supercar Championship back then.
Yeah.
And back that the thing was streamed, the broadcast was streamed on free to air. It had the legend Barry Sheen on there. He was the host, and Barry's come from motorbikes, and if you don't know who he is, like, Google him, because he's one of the greatest to ever have lived. Doing the cars, alongside that, the bikes were there. That's how my brother got noticed. That's how his career took off. So having that there, like you said, it is more eyeballs. It's more people recognizing what this is. And then you can get the crossover and you get the fans, because that's all ProMX want as well, as the people walking through the gates, right?
Well, the synergy between those sports, like if you're a V8 fan, you will be a motocross fan.
Yeah.
Maybe not 100%. The Puritans won't have it, but I guarantee you 75% of the audience, like, I like, you go to a V8, and obviously with Supercross being there, we're on pit lane, we're hanging out. You're behind the scenes on the grid, and you hear the start, you hear the first few laps. I'm like, I'm not a car guy, but this is epic. Like, this is sick.
And what you've just said there is what I want everyone to get to experience being a MotoGP girl in MotoGP, because the TV doesn't do it justice. If you're fortunate enough and you can go and see that, hear the bikes, feel them as they go past, you'll be sold.
I feel that it was, obviously we had the Phillip Island Supercross and MotoGP for years. Do you remember that?
I do remember that, yeah.
Did you go down there much for that? Probably a bit before your time with this, right?
I was definitely there for MotoGP. I remember the Supercross being on site, and we had heaps of rain and the track was just like washed out or something.
I think
like
that was one of the first years they did it.
Yeah.
I remember 13, 14, like this was back when I was coaching and I had my guys riding Supercross. So I was there I had a media, it was before I did broadcast, commentating TV. It was just before that kicked off for me. So I think I still had a very like limited perception of the event, as in like, I'll close minded. I was like, I'm just going there. I'm there for Supercross. I'm there for my guys. I don't give a shit about MotoGP. In hindsight, would have jumped at it now, but I was younger and that's how I was making my money and what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
But I still feel that event, maybe it was the Phillip Island circuit, the way it was done, it was almost like two separate events. It was like Supercross is up on the hill and it's a side show at night, and then MotoGP was MotoGP, and there was no synergy between it.
And it's probably really hard to create that. Like, I haven't been to any of the crossovers with the supercars and Supercross.
Like what they did in Adelaide, there was so much more synergy.
Okay.
Right? Like, but obviously they're part of the event. And I feel like, I don't know how you do that with MotoGP, because MotoGP is the show, but in Adelaide, V8s is the show, right? But we get really good time slots. We get amazing crowd engagement where they'll leave the complex for the V8s and they'll come straight over to watch qualifying or Super Pole or whatever the schedule is for on Supercross, right? I guess going back to that Phillip Island event, there just never seemed to be that kind of synergy. And I remember being there. I remember being behind the scenes, and Rossi and, you know, the bigger name MotoGP guys were in the corporate area watching Supercross, and they were stoked, right?
Yeah.
I remember Chad was there one year, Reedy, when he was still racing. I mean, we're going back like 15 years now.
Yeah.
And he's a big MotoGP advocate, right? He loves it. So there was a lot of crossover, but that was Chad's crossover. It wasn't the sport to GP. I don't know. I'm just talking out loud, but I think there could be such a synergy between all these events. It's just making it work, right?
It's making it work, and you think, you know, MotoGP is a world championship. They travel to, I'll tell you how many countries.
22 rounds, right?
22 rounds, yeah.
Because whenever I'm like, hey, Ren, want to come do this event with us? Or you want to come do something? And you're
I'm
just
like,
like,
I
I
can't,
can't. I'm here. Yeah.
But then I go, and it's nothing against the Australian Supercross, because I think what AME do is phenomenal for how they've built it up, especially in the short years that I've been involved with that industry. But I think that it's just different. MotoGP is like,
it's different levels.
It's the top of the line moto on road racing. Well, superbikes maybe, because it's that little bit lower.
Yeah.
And it's even a little bit more grassroots, because you still have a lot less privateer teams and things like that.
It's production-based racing, right?
Correct, yeah. But, you still have the mum and dad who run the teams and stuff like that in there. It's not big wigs. So I'm like, maybe that's the synergy that they're looking for. Okay, you don't get as many eyeballs, but is that the start of the crossover to continue on? Sometimes it's like you want to reach for the stars, but you don't always go straight to the top. Try and take those steps to get there.
It's just interesting, like getting your opinion on it. And like I said, my original question was the media grid. ProMX had that for years, or last few seasons, and it just doesn't seem to translate like it does in the other sports. But I think in Supercross there's potential, but then Supercross you got your heat races and you got your mains, and there's so much racing that there's probably no time in the main event evening space to have fans down there hanging out on the line.
Well, my question to you then is, why is motocross always just on one day? Why does it not go over 2 days? Because obviously every other form of road racing, F1, MotoGP and supercars, they're 3 days. It's always Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Practice, qualifying, and MotoGP we have a sprint race, and then Sunday we have all 3 races across the categories.
I think it comes down to, like you just said, right, like MotoGP, F1, and I say this on the podcast a lot. Here in Australia, we forget that this is a domestic championship. Right, like you just said that about Supercross. Like the reality is, it is a domestic championship. Now, I say that Australian ProMX and Australian Supercross is the biggest domestic championship in the world. What I mean by that is that you've got MXGP and you got AMA, Super Motocross. Those are not domestic championships. They're both world championships that pull from the same. You got the North American marketing fund that funds racing for Super Motocross, and then you got the global marketing fund that funds MXGP.
Yeah.
Right. And collectively, bike sales in America and bike sales in the rest of the world are basically the same size. It's being a bit generic, but it is similar. So the budgets are similar, right? But then Australia is this independent market, right? Where some of the manufacturers are subsidiaries of Japan or Europe. Some are more independent, but the marketing is completely separate to the rest of the world. So their ability to fund racing is a tenth than those global budgets, right? So then why are the events shorter? Because someone's got to pay for it.
Yeah.
And like you look at ProMX now, that's funded by Motorcycling Australia, right? As far as a private promoter, I spent years with Kevin Williams and the MX Nationals, and that business model got harder and harder to make work. And Kevin is one of the best motorsports promoters I've ever worked with as far as the ability to make it viable financially. So the single day thing, events cost a lot of money. Hiring stadiums cost a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Track builds cost 6 figures per round. Like people don't, why don't you just build a track like this? Because it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring the dirt in, to take it out, to have the track crew. So I get it, right? Like you look at what AME alone achieve in the last 3 years since they took sole promoter, like they were the promoters and they would have promoters. They were the promoters for the national championship in Supercross, and they would have individual promoters do separate rounds. I think it's only 2 or 3 years since it's been solely promoted by AME at every event, but like the financial burden of doing that in trying to grow it is not an easy thing to do. So to answer your question, I hate it when we go to ProMX. We get there Friday night or Saturday morning. As you know, you've worked the events, and then you literally sit around all day Saturday. We do a bit of pit content, which is the same every round, right? Bikes under the truck, mechanics at tech, track walk. It would be so much better if we had press day, if we had more content. And the rounds that there are 2 days of racing, our engagement numbers for us as Inside Dirt, as the clients we represent, their channels go nuts, right? It's frustrating, but I know Supercross there's press days if the weather permits and the track build permits. Like AME will run press day, which helps a lot. But I don't quite know. I think Supercross is starting to bridge that gap in Australia, that it's not just a race, it's an event.
Yeah.
You know, and Marvel, like last year. Were you at Marvel last year? I don't think you were.
I did, yeah.
Were you there?
Yeah, I worked for you. Do you remember?
That was 20.
No, that was last year.
Did you?
Yep, that was last year. No, I didn't
No,
work
it
for
wasn't.
you last year.
No, you weren't. I'm like, no, you did not.
I was there. You know why? Because I had to borrow something from Adam. This is why. No.
Were you there for Fox Sports?
I was there.
Yeah, you were there for Fox Sports. Yeah. No, 23 you worked with us at AUSX.
I did, yes.
And then last year you didn't. I was like, no, I'm right. But yeah, last year at AUSX, right, they had the Friday activation. Do you remember? They had the autograph session.
That's right, yes.
And it was out in the, I don't know what you call, you know, Marvel's got like street access. It was just out in like Melbourne, Dockland Street, because that's where Marvel is, Sixer Stadium. And that turned into a festival because you had like 20-something thousand there on Friday just for the autograph meet and greet hit stuff in downtown Melbourne, whatever you want to call it, in the, you know, Docklands. And then it was 40,000 there on Saturday night for the racing. That to me was the first time, and I said that to everyone when I saw that event, I was like, this is starting to transform into the next level.
I mean, it helps that they have the big names, and I'm not taking that away from them. But last year when the Lawrence brothers came out and you heard the stadium roar, you know that majority of those people aren't there to watch like Luke Clout. They're there to watch Jet and Hunter, but Luke Clout is racing there with Jet and Hunter. Yeah. Like, it's still really, really cool that we have that here in Oz.
But that goes back to that business model, like it's a domestic championship.
Yeah.
Right? So realistically, AUSX Open is the only event annually that's going to draw 40,000+ fans to a stadium to watch dirt bikes in Australia. It's a one-time event deal. Now, I know AME wants to get every stadium to that point, but that's going to take...
It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of hustle and a lot of money.
A lot of time and a lot of money, right? Like, yeah, in 10 years, do I see us going to Perth, Adelaide, all, 10 different rounds with 30? Yeah, I do. I think it's doable. But that's not year one, year two. That's decade two,
And it comes back to you can aim for the stars, but you got to take the steps to get there.
You do. And it's got to be sustainable, which is something that Supercross in Australia has always struggled with, is sustainability.
But it's getting there.
They're killing it this year. It's going to be, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm like, we spoke off air, and we just spoke about this before, the fact that the Supercross is there with the V8s. That's so cool. Yeah. You're on Australia's, once again, it's a domestic championship, but Australia's biggest domestic motorsport championship, and Supercross is alongside of it. Yeah. That's awesome.
But I guess, again, it comes down to what we talked about before, where it's like the business side versus the consumer side or the fan side. Like, they don't understand, like you said, the negative comments, right? People.
It's hard.
It's hard. Like, the work that goes into it, and then you get a comment stream of, this is shit, should have done that. And I don't know whether is it prevalent in motorsport in general? Because you would get exposure to more disciplines in Fox Sports than what we have just in moto, right? Like,
I think it's every sport. I think it's everything.
It's just people and social media.
It's just the fact that we have access to a keyboard and we don't have anyone. Like, I'd never look at someone in the face and go, "You're shit." So then why would I go on a keyboard and write the same thing? I'd be like, "Hey, you made a mistake here. This is what the actual fact is." Get that. That's so fine. So I don't know, but I mean, that's like a whole other side thing that no one wants to listen to. Just be a nice human, okay?
just be a good person.
Yeah.
I think there should be a rule, right? Like, if you wouldn't say that to someone in person, don't say it online.
Or would you let your mum listen to what you just said?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that is a good one.
Joe probably would.
Hey, I don't.
You haven't dropped a C-bomb yet, so we're doing good.
This is business, Joe.
It was wild when I worked for Joe. I just want everyone to say that, because so I would walk into the media tent at a ProMX. I'm the only female there, which is fine because I get along with the guys and everything, right? It's all good. But he's like, I had a lesson in vocabulary that first round.
I don't go to the media tent's too much for me. Like, I don't go to the media tent because it's just like it's like, what's that word? It's like a frat house or like a.
My favorite is like when there's like Darnell, Posty, Wilsey, probably like Nick and Trent, and like you get like that team together, and it's like they just take nothing. So I just follow them.
Yeah. No, you were like one of the boys by that first year of being on the ProMX tour. I do remember. It's like, you know, when you walk into a country bar and it's like, you're not from around here, and like the music stops kind of thing. Like when you first walked into the media tent, it was like, whoop, like,
yeah, like, what is she doing here?
You do get it though. I went in there quickly the other day, one of the rounds, and there was a woman. It was like a journalist, like she was from like a local paper or something. And you could see all the boys were just like, just couldn't say or do what they wanted to do, and they would get really frustrated because they couldn't just let it fly, you know.
But how cool is that you just said, okay, there's a woman there and she's from a local journalist. So that means the areas are getting more involved and the more females are getting more involved.
I think there's definitely more coverage, you know. Like we went to that launch last week. Adam and I went to
Redcliffe.
To KO Stadium, Redcliffe, because there was the Reece Walsh announcement, ambassador, and that's a really interesting conversation to have, because I said to Adam, it was like, Channel 9, Channel 7, you know, there was all these Herald Sun and all these different sports reporters, kind of like you off Fox Sports, right? Like all these really important people.
That have responsibilities.
Have like, you know, real media, right? And Reece Walsh lined up with all the moto guys, and Bailey goes around, does the introductions and talks to Clout, talks to NATO, talks to Reece, you know, and then the mainstream journos are like, they'll talk to Cloudy, they'll talk to Crawford, but they're very guarded. They don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. So they're not like asking in-depth questions. It's very cookie cutter.
But it also needs to then translate to their audiences.
It does, right? So it's never going to be as in-depth as the conversations that we would have as part of like the endemic sports media, right?
Yeah.
But then, then Reece comes in for Q&A with the mainstream journos, and it's like a frenzy. Like these guys are just frothing to talk to him. They're obviously asking him NRL questions, and I guess I didn't even really understand what big a deal he is. Like I know about NRL, but it's not really, you know.
We're moto heads here.
Well, I like team sports. I grew up playing rugby union, right? But like league's just not really something I'm into. Like I love NFL, I love American football, and my stepkid now plays AFL. So I'm like going to those games, and that's actually really sick. I love it. But you see the difference in enthusiasm to talk to like a mainstream sports star, and they're just like, you can see their smiles this big, and they're cracking jokes, and they're just fully engaged in it. And obviously they don't know enough. And a part of growing any championship and any sporting commodity, right, is education to the mainstream. And people go, oh, you see the comments like, why is Reece Walsh ambassador? Why he doesn't even ride a dirt bike? He does ride a dirt bike. I saw him ride one off after the press thing. It was actually pretty cool. But that brings a whole new awareness of sport to a new fan base, right?
Exactly. I mean, if you're not in the moto world, you probably don't know this, but you know, Julian Wilson's massive moto head. Loves it. Like you mentioned earlier, all the Moto GP guys froth over Supercross. So I know when MotoGP's in the US, it's normally earlier in the year when the Supercross season's on. They are all there. Yeah. If the MotoGP guys the Supercross guys get a chance to go to MotoGP, they're going to, because they're all in it together. But yeah, how do we then get the football players? How do we get the tennis players? How do we get the swimmers or whatever other mainstream sport it is? How do you get them involved in the moto world?
Yeah, exactly. Like you look at, I think I watched the F1 series launch. It was at the O2.
In London,
was it the O2? Yeah. And you got Machine Gun Kelly, MGK, kicking off. Like with like mainstream musicians, he's on the grid at the GP in America, right? Like Formula One it ain't even about the sport. It's transcended to, you need to be seen at the F1.
You do, and that's the drive to survive effect. That's what's come from Liberty Media taking ownership of F1. They created the show. Okay, we were in COVID, so what else were we going to do other than sit at home and watch TV? But all of a sudden, you're like, oh, these guys drive really fast cars, and Daniel Ricciardo's really hilarious. And Lewis Hamilton, he's won a lot of championships, but he's so dedicated to what he does. And you look at Charles Leclerc, and he lost his dad, and all of a sudden, we're getting these characters from the show, right? So Liberty Media, for those who don't know much about MotoGP, they're a big marketing company in the US, obviously now own F1. They've also just taken ownership of MotoGP. So that's going to be really interesting to see how they progress with that. But I think the drive to survive effect, you can do it without having a TV show. And how can AME do that with Supercross? How can Supercars do that with Supercars? How can Tennis Australia do that with tennis? Like whatever sport it is, we need to know the characters and we want the drama because we're in an era of storytelling now.
We are, and I think that is the biggest drawback from our sport, motocross and supercross, is the riders' ignorance to that. Like if I'm talking candidly, very few riders domestically here in Australia actually enjoy doing media, actually want to tell their story and play the game to take it to the next level.
Do you think as well, now back when I worked for Urive, obviously I got to work with Kyle Webster and he's based in south of Victoria and trained at the Beaton facility, and obviously we know there's Jed Beaton and a lot of the other guys would train there. Is it like kind of strange that they're all training together and there's not this like we're buddy and we're friend and then all of a sudden we line up at the gate and now have to beat you? There's none of this like we don't talk off track to create that? Or is that's just kind of a moto thing though? To
no,
be like
I
that,
think that there needs to be more rivalries. There needs to be more. Fuck that guy, he took me out. Watch your back this much. You know, like there needs to be more storytelling. I mean, let's be real. ProMX was dead this year until Beaton got injured. Unfortunately, should have been his maiden MX1 championship, and then he broke his femur, and all of a sudden there's a storyline again because Webby, he crashed out of Moto 2 at round 1, and then he had more injuries behind the scenes that people didn't know about, and it wasn't his year. But there's those two guys that are 30 seconds ahead of the rest of the field, right? And instead of coming off being like, oh, I hate that guy, he beat me again, he got the overall, they're like, yeah, we're going to go home and train on Monday and our coach is awesome. And they're two colors of the same person, really, right? Like, so there needs to be more drama. And then everyone hates on Deegan in America. They're like, oh, Deegan's such a prick. He talks all this smack. And it's like, that's a character.
Yeah.
Like, that's a UFC character at press night. Like, he's doing his job.
Yeah.
You know,
like,
and
remember when Roxon wore the suit to
how cool is that?
It's something different. It gave everyone something to talk about. Okay, it's very not Ken Roxon. But for him to do that was like, gave something to talk about. He then started to try and level up the sport in his way, right?
Yeah, he had a Breitling on.
Yeah.
Watch is worth more than most people's houses, right? And he's got a suit on and he was the guy. Supercross is, in America, Supercross blowing up. Supercross blowing up in Australia. World Supercross is its own deal, but like collectively Supercross is going to be the next sport in motorsport to cross over into the mainstream, right? It's going to do it in dribs and drabs over the next decade, but it's continually going up against these institutions that have been around for decades, like be it F1, be it MotoGP, be it V8 Supercars, be it IndyCar in America, like whatever, right? World Rally, like a lot of those other sports are on the decline because their demographic, their fan base is aging out, right? Like how many young people watch certain World Rally or IndyCars or V8s?
And I think that's like a common collective across motorsport at the moment, and a conversation that I hear often is F1 before Liberty took over was very much like your grandfather watched it, so your dad watched it, so you grew up watching it. And
it's generational fan base, yeah.
And obviously every person pretty much drives a car. Less people ride a motorbike, so it's harder for them to relate. So then MotoGP is very much the same. It's either your dad or your grandfather, your uncle or something, road bikes, watched it back, like I said, Barry Sheene and like these big names. And then you kind of got into it that way, or it stopped there. And we see that at MotoGP, especially here in Australia, is the fan base is very much the older
aging
demographic.
out.
Yeah.
Yep.
You said the same thing with World Rally or whatnot. I think the cool thing about motocross and supercross is it is the younger demographic, and it always has been the younger demographic.
Well, I think that's what you just said there is so relevant, right? Like I had this explained to me once years ago where it was like everyone can go to the store, buy a set of footy boots and a football or a soccer ball, right? Like the relatability to kicking a ball.
Yeah.
You can watch a game of anything and be like, I kind of get that. That's easy. That's hard, whatever, right? You can't go to the store and buy a V8 supercar or a MotoGP bike, right? Like it's so far removed from production. There's still a connection to the consumer with a Holden car or a Yamaha R9 or whatever. You
said Holden haven't been in supercar.
I know, but that's how much it's ingrained with the branding, right? It's But yeah, you're right. I don't know. When I first moved to Australia, it was Holden Ford, and that like got drummed into me when I was younger, and I was like, this stuff is whack, honestly, but whatever, do your thing. But that was a long time ago. But the biggest blessing and curse for motorsport, motocross and supercross, sorry, you can go to a dealer and buy the bike that Roxon's on or Tomac's on or Kyle Webster's, right? You can go to a dealership and buy that same bike. And that to me is incredible, scary for the average consumer. Like, I don't think it should be allowed in certain degrees, but that's a whole other story. But the relatability, you can go to a store and buy that bike he's going to race at Marvel Stadium.
Yeah.
Right? How epic is that? So relatability wise, it should be a lot more relatable to the average consumer, but there's a bit of a disconnect between the average rider and professional racing. But I think Supercross is bridging that gap. But to me, it's a blessing and a curse. The accessibility is there. It's not like it's completely, but I think the barrier to entry, like you said, everyone needs a car.
Yeah.
They have a car. You know, you look at the Asian or the Thai or whatever markets for MotoGP, right? It was because everyone rides a scooter.
Mm-hmm.
And scooter sales trump everything 10-1. So that's why they're passionate about MotoGP in those countries, because they all ride scooters.
Yeah.
Not even because they're into MotoGP. It's because of the relatability. So yeah, we should be more relatable, but the barrier to entry, I guess, for people being into our sport is $5,000 to $10,000 motorcycle. So instantly it's a luxury product for a lot of people, right? But yeah, it's food for thought. It's just, I'm glad we had this conversation because I love talking about this stuff, and there's not a lot of people to talk about it with because they don't understand, and that's not from a superiority point, but there's not many people in the business side, you know?
Yeah, I get it. It's hard, but I mean, that's what makes it really cool as well, is people, they don't know. They just get to watch the show and enjoy it.
And I guess they shouldn't know, right? They just get to see the product and enjoy it.
Like, you don't necessarily want to go watch how a movie's made, but you want to see, like, remember when Avatar came out and you hear all this stuff? It's like, oh, it was made like CGI and like all this new like technology that came out. I just wanted to watch Avatar. I just wanted to watch it, put the 3D glasses on and experience it. And I think that's the cool thing is you can either be like really into the nitty gritty of stuff like we are, or you can just enjoy the product. But then how we get more eyes on the product, that's the age-old question.
Yeah. All right, question for you. I know you're a big fan of Jorge Prado.
Yes.
Yeah. We had a conversation in the group chat the other day, and I was like, I find it almost comical, right? Like Jorge Prado's over there, and I got no beef for Prado. This isn't me talking down on him specifically, right? Like the situation there in America hasn't worked out for him with Cowie. All the rumors are he'll leave, whatever. I'm not even here to talk about that, right? But multi-million-dollar deal, 3-year deal, I think it was, right, with Cowie. He's a multi-time world champion.
Posty's going to say 4 times.
Yeah, 4 times. Sorry, Posty, 4 times. 4-time world champ, going over there on a multi-6-7 figure dollar contract, right? Now, I don't know if he has an agent. I don't know if he has a media rep. I know MotoGP, the guys are very vocal about the bikes, and in that industry, it's a lot more allowed because they're not selling production motorcycles off the back of the racing results, right? I'm not saying what Prado's done is good or bad, but what I'm saying is someone at that level of racing, that level of profile, running his own socials, a language barrier, a cultural barrier, and he's just a young guy emotionally charged from the frustrations of what's going on over there, and he is posting these posts. You can tell it's translated. English isn't his first language, but the consumer doesn't care about any of that. They're reading the messaging, and it's obviously very contrasting to the fan. Either fans are like, posing, he's a 4-time world champ, like it's all Kawasaki, right? Or it's, he should go back to Europe, sissy boy, can't race in America, go home, whatever, right? Like, I can't believe that no one in his camp's been like, hey man, play the game this way. You're going to leave Cowie. It hasn't worked out. Don't commit PR suicide right now with what you're doing. My 2 cents, I guess, because of what we do as a company with PR and branding. I'm like, how is no one stopping this from escalating to where it has?
Yeah. But what if you looked at it this way of, okay, he's had a lot of bad negativity because he hasn't produced the results. I wouldn't even be able to tell you who won the championship this year, but I can tell you the fact that I'm talking about Jorge Prado here.
Okay.
Because he had the post on socials, and it was coming up on my feed
Yeah.
as something I might be interested in. Now, I don't follow Supercross and Motocross. Joe goes, what's your knowledge about this year's championship? I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm already following 3. I can't follow more.
Yeah, well, that's why I say MotoGP, right? Like, you can't be super invested in every championship. It's just not possible.
But I'm here talking about Jorge Prado. Okay, maybe he made the wrong decision. And it translates, you'd see it in F1. Like, we're seeing the same thing with Hamilton not producing the results, going to Ferrari and the biggest thing and whatnot. Each sport has its own thing like that. But we're still here talking about Jorge Prado.
Well, no press is bad press to a degree.
To a degree. Is the team not going to sign him because he vocalized his thoughts? Probably not. They'd probably just say, hey, let's get you a manager instead, or let's try and work on this.
Well, I think tell me, MotoGP, guys are a lot more vocal about setup, right?
Yeah, there's press officers and there's managers that work with MotoGP. And even if you go down further into Moto2 or Moto3, each team will still have a press officer. Usually that's a team coordinator / press officer. And they'll usually be told what they can and they can't talk about. For example, my friend works with Moto2 or Moto3 teams, KTM, AO, so sponsored by Red Bull. And they're all teenagers. They're all like 16, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds. And they're sponsored by Red Bull. And somehow the other day was sitting there drinking a can of Coke. And she's like, you can't do that. But it's okay because, we'll fix it for next time and whatnot. But it happens across everything.
Yeah. Well, I think therein is the answer to a degree, right? Like MotoGP, the media side.
MotoGP is really cool with the media side. I just want to say, so when you go to an event, they have an area set up. If it's in Europe, it's in a truck, and it's called the broadcaster set. It's in a truck, or when it's away races, it's just like a little room, and it's like a big U shape, and there's like a fencing around, and the riders will go from one to one to one, and each broadcaster will have a camera set up in there. So each area behind the riders has interchangeable things or a LED screen with their sponsors. They just go from broadcaster to broadcaster, right? You can ask them whatever. Up in the media center, we have an area for media scrum. So there's usually 3 tables, English, Italian, and Spanish, because that's majority of the languages spoke.
Yeah.
And the riders will just go from table to table, and journalists will wait. And that's after every session. They come up and they do that and they talk, and the journalists can ask, oh, what happened there? Or tell me about this that's going around on socials, or what's the setup for this weekend? And they will say, but every time they're at one of these, the press officer is with them.
And that's in their contracts as a rider, right? Like you can't miss those.
No.
Like you contractually have to go to those.
And, like sometimes Pecco Bagnaia been struggling so much lately, and I've heard that he was like 2 hours late to one. He's still there.
Yeah.
Journalists are still waiting because they still want to hear what he has to say and hear his side of things.
Yeah, that in itself sells a lot, right? Like I still think there's such an ignorance to it in motocross and supercross where, even brands and teams we represent, I'm talking factory teams, right? Like these are elite level guys, and I'll be like, hey man, we need to get an interview real quick for the team recap or for whatever. I don't really want to talk. I don't care, dude. You have to. Like you're getting paid all this money to race, and there's media obligations that come with that. That blows me away. That's still an attitude in some forms in our sport, unfortunately.
How do you then build that? And I guess when I worked with you, Joe, we went to QMP one day. There was a riding school there, and we were talking to them about personal branding and socials and whatnot. How do you get them to look at it as part of their job and not as a chore?
You know what? It's interesting you say that, right? That was 2 years ago?
Yeah.
We went and did that with the 00 Elite crew, one of the premier training programs in the country, and you got all these junior and MX3 kids that are trying to break into the pros, and we're there to talk about personal branding and marketing and contracts and all these things, right? And you remember half of them are sitting there looking up at the sky, looking on their phones, and I was be like, put your fucking phones away, like get dad about it, right? But from that entire event, was there 20 families there?
Yeah, there was a lot of kids there.
Right. One family stayed in touch with me over the last few years. One family has commissioned us to do things for them with sponsorship documents, partnership documents. And look, have they got a factory ride yet? Like, no, that kid isn't at that level. But the connection he made with us currently has him his support ride that has grown into what it's going to be for Supercross, right? Because they engaged us to further their knowledge about how the industry works, and then every other family, I don't even know where they're at or what's going on with them.
But then there was a couple of the pro guys. Darnell's biggest
KJ was there.
KJ,
Barham.
that's
Yeah,
it. I was
yeah.
like, what's his name? And there's another guy who was also there coaching, and I remember them looking at what they did before this, and then their socials after, and I think they took stuff away from it too.
Yeah, it's and it's not that we have all the answers. Like I go to Adam and I sat at Redcliffe last week, and I was talking to Reece Walsh's agent from the NRL, and I was just like asking him question after question after question about the NRL, the unionized wages and the minimum wage and what they get paid and their contracts and and I was just fascinated by it, and I took so much from that because he was asking us how we do it with the riders we manage, and I was like, dude, completely different.
Yeah,
like we don't do it that way. We do it this way, whatever it is, right?
Well, do you remember when we sat down with Charlie Cannon and we had this idea when I was working with you of how can we bring Charlie Cannon to the mainstream media? And I've always envisioned her working with Lorna Jane because Charlie's an incredible athlete, talented on a bike, but she is fit and she's strong. And being female, I look at Lorna Jane as a brand, and same thing is like it is for empowering women. How can we get the two to show like chicks can ride bikes and compete with the dudes and be faster than them?
Well, there's a mainstream crossover that the women especially, like you go in at WMX, right? Like Charlie's gone to America this year. She's won motos. She had finger surgery the week of round one. Like she shouldn't have been competitive. She's dominated here for 4 or 5 seasons. And that was what we talked to her and the family about, right? Like let's take that into a mainstream spotlight. But for whatever reasons, it didn't happen, as far as not to be discussed on air sort of thing. But
But it's talking about that getting the mainstream into moto and the moto into mainstream. And I think that it doesn't matter what industry or what sport, if it's MotoGP, if it's F1, if it's supercars, if it's ProMX, if it's motocross, here, there's room for it to happen. It
should cross over. Like Charlie should be a mainstream, like Caroline Buchanan, right? Like, she was
what, Nutrigrain,
a bunch of other, there's protein brands. There's all these things that she's had, and obviously the Olympics helped crossing over. The sport BMX going into the Olympics then puts it on a mainstream that gets funding from Sports Australia and all these. Then it gets put on the radar of mainstream brands, corporate brands that sponsor those type of athletes and mainstream sport. It's just there's still a missing step in moto, and I guess even to a degree there's a missing step in Moto GP. Like F1 has transcended Moto GP perhaps to a key demographic they're going to know, but I don't know the main guys in Moto GP. Like I know their names, but I don't know that much about them,
And that's a whole nother side quest where that's because it's like Spanish and Italian and European driven, and like we don't need to go into that. But you just talking then, I was scrolling on Instagram this morning and I got an ad pop up from Cotton On, the clothing brand, have just bought out a Honda by, is it JR Racing? Yeah. Yeah, they bought out a collab.
Yeah, right.
And this is at Cotton On. So this is, mainstream Australian, actually I think it's even Asia, clothing company. T-shirts like what, $30? And it's the Honda actual logo. It's got HRC on it.
Yeah, right.
It's JTR and it's on the back. I think there was like a 250 or something, like this whole line. So they're trying.
There's always these flare-ups, right? Like you see Alps right now on
the reserve,
the catwalk. Yeah. The fashion weeks, right? You see people wearing Alpine Stars chest protectors and jerseys, and there's these little pockets, little flare-ups of mainstream attention, but it's just going to take longer to. Have you ever read the book The Tipping Point?
No.
It's really cool.
Okay.
It talks about everything. It's brand related and business related, but it talks about different brands at different points and how these really inconsequential moments culturally tipped something into the mainstream. Whether it's like there's a thing about hush puppy shoes, different things, right? Like hipsters wearing them in New York in this certain time frame, and then fashion people saw it and it blew up into from hipsters to mainstream, and then the brand exploded. And there's heaps of other. I read it years ago. I actually think I heard Gypsy talk about it the other day on one of his pods. So I'm not going to sit here and say that didn't remind me to go back and reread it, because it did. But the tipping point, culturally, it talks about like diseases and all sorts of how things go from pocketed to exploding. Really interesting.
I mean, it makes sense. My thing is, I'm sitting here and I'm going, we talk about it. We're quite creative minds, right? So we talk about this and see these ideas. I know my brother, I know Richie both very, very well. They don't want to sit there and think about their social media posts or like how they can personal brand themselves. They're thinking about how they can go faster, what prep they need to do for their next race, or how they're going to beat their competition. And that's their focus, as the athlete should be.
As it should be. It's a very selfish, self-centric focus. It needs to be.
But that's where you guys come in. And even like I always have these ideas. I'll reach out to like Senagius in Moto2 and I'm like, Sena, you should do this with your socials, or you should look at it this way. And he's like, I just want to ride my bike. I just want to like go fast.
Yeah, I don't care about that. Yeah, absolutely. And that comes back to the Jorge Prado thing, where I'm like, he must have management. He must have representation. Now, I'm not saying what Prado's done is right or wrong, right? Like, he should be allowed to say what he said, free speech, whatever. But it hasn't gone well as far as the PR side, you know, and he's probably lost more fans than he's gained, right?
Yeah. So was Deegan. Probably at some. What about probably Jet when he went to the Met Gala? I'm sure there's so many people who are going,
it's polarizing by nature. And I guess elite athletes should be polarizing because it elicits a response, love or hate.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what you want.
Yeah. But it has us talking about them. And then for me, it comes back to that drive to survive effect of creating these characters. And that's only going to keep elevating the sport. We're seeing a whole other side of Jorge Prado, not the friendly guy, not the guy who's won 4 world championships, Posty. We're seeing a guy who can share his mind and share his thoughts. I don't follow MXGP, but I knew who he was before then, and now I'm seeing a whole personality come out.
Yeah, true. All right, lots of good stuff there. That was cool. I was like, that's what I wanted to talk about today.
Sorry, do you guys just want me to talk about Moto GP and Valentino Rossi and Marc Marquez?
No, let's not do that. Let's not do that.
I was like, no, that'll put me to sleep.
No, it's not put me to sleep, but you used to do that enough. Like, I don't know, Ren. Like, cool. What's up rest of the year? You're still, what are we, September today?
Yeah.
Yesterday? What's going on?
Home for the rest of September, and then I've got Singapore for F1, straight into Bathurst, which is the same weekend as the Redcliffe Supercross, straight into Moto GP. So I go from 4 wheels to 4 wheels to 2 wheels, back to back. And Australian Grand Prix for me is really cool this year. So I'm working obviously with Fox Sports, so I do my socials and I do broadcasts. So on Thursday, I've got sit-down interviews with 4 MotoGP riders. I've got track walks. I've got socials with Australian riders. I'm also working for the Grand Prix Corp there, so I host the fan forum stage. I'm hosting the Hero Walk. They on the live broadcast, they do this trailer ride around with the riders on the back. I'll be on that and whatnot. So that's really, really cool. I'm so looking forward to it. And we've got some cool things hopefully in the pipeline that if we can get across that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's really cool.
That's rad. That's awesome. I mean, that's a pretty epic end to the year.
Oh, that's not the end of my year.
Oh, it's not the end of the year? No. No, that's just it's over.
Honestly, it is non-stop because F1 season finishes the first week of December.
Right. Does it go that long now?
Yeah. Oh. So they started in March and finishes the first week of December. And hopefully we'll have our Aussie world champion, Oscar Piastri. So
it's a massive story. Yeah.
Brock Feeney's looking pretty well to win his first Supercars championship. And yeah, Marc Marquez is going to win MotoGP probably in the next 2 to 3 races. So
if I come to Melbourne next year for the F1, can you like hook it up?
No.
No, is there no?
No, it is so tricky.
So strict, yeah.
It is so difficult to
It's not like Motocross. Well, yeah, she's with us and you just like come in. It doesn't work that way.
Through a hole in the fence at ProMX. Yeah, no, F1 is not like that at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you have passes, lanyards, and they have like your photo ID on the back. In F1, you scan through a thing, goes doo-doo-doo, and you have to walk through turnstiles to get into the paddock.
Yeah, right.
MotoGP is fairly similar with the security guards at the entrance. You have photo on the back, they scan it, thing says if you've come in, if you've come out, where you've been, like it's really strict.
Yeah, and then I'd imagine if you get caught trying to give that to somebody else, you just get revoked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
because it's got your name, it's got your photo on it. They know who you are, what company you work for, what you're doing here.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like even World Superbikes, like we did some coverage this year for World Superbikes for some of our clients, and the difference in accreditation and media submission, and man, like they wanted to know everything about us as an agency, who we shoot for, who was shooting for us, and then it was like, this is what you can shoot, this is what you can't shoot, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was like we were allowed to shoot the activations for the brand. We were allowed, and this is not an Australian. This was for a manufacturer, like global. We could shoot their activation, we could shoot pit, we could shoot ASBK, but we couldn't shoot World Supers
on track. Yeah.
Yep.
F1 is like that, but 10 times worse.
Yeah.
In the fact that we are allowed access, but we don't get much interaction with the drivers. That has to go directly through the teams themselves. And usually if you're not like a big name broadcaster or a big name publication or something, it's really hard, and you get 10-minute slots. So imagine trying to fit something for broadcast in a 10-minute slot, or try and get the answer.
Because I guess you're just a domestic broadcast partner, right? So you're not the official.
We're not Sky Sports or F1 TV or a DAZN, which is.
So even though Fox Sports is massive,
in
the grand global scheme of things, they're looking at you guys as just a domestic partner, right?
So it comes back to what I said earlier: is I don't try and take the narratives that's there. Okay, I can't get access to Oscar this weekend. How can I tell his story in a completely different way? Is it a case of going, oh, this corner here and showing an image of the circuit or whatnot, this is where he's most likely to overtake. And if he doesn't get a good grid position, this is how he's going to have to go into turn one. Like, how do I tell his story without going, hey, Oscar, tell me your story, you know?
True.
So think outside the box.
Yeah. All right, a lot to unpack there. That's cool, man. All right, so yeah, busy end of the year.
But hopefully I'll come to Melbourne for Supercross, because they got some big names coming to that one.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Like to do that. Waiting to find out if their airing partner is going to be on KO again. So
was it KO last year?
It was KO last year, yeah.
And then that's Fox Sports, so that's why you were at the events.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Because sometimes you'll just pop up and like, why are you here? Like, not why are you here, but like, hey, we're like, what? And then,
no. So hopefully I'm waiting to find out that goes through all the big wigs. I just do social media, so I get told
where you going,
where
and
I go,
when, and
what's happening. But I was asking you, I was like, is KO, are we part of it again? I need to reach out to Adam Bailey. What's happening there?
Yeah. All right. Well, if he's listening, maybe he'll hit you up. Yeah. I know we're going to go see those guys before the start of the season, and we're going to do some pods with the AME crew, and
that'd be cool.
Do a few days in the Goldie and just get some content.
Yeah.
Should be cool.
Definitely, because they've all got stories as well.
Oh, man, there's so many stories. Just it's same as any of this in this game, right? It's not a linear career path.
Yeah.
You just bounce around and
you find your niche and how you can make it work, and then you go from there.
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks for coming in, Rem.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad we got to do it. And where can people find you?
I am at Renita Vermeulen. I'm going to do this.
Do you want to maybe spell your last name? Because after a year of you working with us, I still could never spell your last name.
So guys, follow me on socials. I'm at Renita Vermeulen on everywhere. RENITA VERMEULEN.
I used to go MUE.
Yeah.
No. Crack it.
On socials. Obviously Fox Motorsport, Fox Sports Australia, and KO Sports on those platforms everywhere. Obviously listen to Joe's podcast, but if you want to listen about Moto GP and F1, we are at the Fox Pit Talk podcast. You can get that on all the platforms as well.
I need to listen to that.
Tune into the Australian Grand Prix on the weekend of October 19th on Fox Sports and KO, because you'll see me on there as well.
There you go.
Sorry, I'm doing all this to camera. I'm like making sure I get the tune in.
Yeah, no. Hey, you got to sell it.
You got to sell it,
Gotta
right?
Hustle. All right, Rendog, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see you.